What is important here, I think, one of the most important topics is that interoperability is usually thought of in terms of benefits to the users. But it's not just the users of data who benefit from interoperability. Interoperability enables you to greatly improve the efficiency of your own data processes. That's very important to keep in mind. SDMX facilitates data integration, facilitates interoperability with the other standards, facilitates the sharing and reuse of structures across the enterprise, within the enterprise and across organizations. And that, again, improves the efficiency, improves automation, improves data quality. And finally, in terms of data exchange and reporting, the traditional use case, SDMX has a proven track record to reduce the burden of data exchange, and the use of the reporting structures is something that I think will grow more and more important. It spares you from having to develop your own structures and improve interoperability at the same time. So there are many benefits to SDMX reporting, and I think that one of them is not entirely appreciated yet, which is the dissemination software developed for global data structure definitions. And finally, let's not forget that the SDMX ecosystem, it's not just the tools. It's also guidelines and recommendations, user community, user support, capacity building. And that is a reflection of 20 years of development, as our colleague Glenn Tice never tries to repeat. And that's it.
Thank you, Abdullah. So perhaps once again, one question before we have the sponsors coming to the scene to present their long-term vision. So one question about these new use cases and AI.
Good morning, Tom Roberts with SmartX. MCP is the big buzzword for the past 11 months with Anthropic coming out with a standard. I don't know how much we all love standards here. And Dominique was in London at the time with me with TC68 trying to figure out interoperability with ISO 20022, and we've got some interesting challenges there. What kind of challenges do you see with SDMX becoming more interoperable with MCP going forward, and how can we leverage that? Thank you.
Well, it's a good question. I don't know if I have a great answer. I mean, I think it's the appropriate place for something like the technical working group within the standard to deal with, right? Because it should be, and I'm looking at the person sitting next to you because I hope it's going to be a topic he takes up. But yeah, I mean, I think again, the concern would be that we'd all end up with our own flavors of TCP or MCP, excuse me, right? And then you have another coordination problem. So maybe the advantage is that it's so new that we can sort of build that standard as it's happening. I guess, all these timelines I see, we're talking years and years of discussion, and I don't think we have that kind of time. I mean, I think if I have a plea to the technical working group, it's whatever discussions and work need to happen, we need to really move quickly, because I think the flavors are going to be developed without us if we don't do it.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think you can applaud our presenters, and now I will invite the SDMX sponsor to join the scene. And my understanding is that a Slido. So a Slido request will come on your iPhone. You can just to take a picture of the QR code, and you will invited to rank your priority for future SDMX.
Thank you.
Okay, so in the meantime, Bruno will have the difficult task of, after his very insightful keynote speech, to explain and synthesize the answer to this question. So looking back, what would you do differently in SDMX development or governance?
Well, I come from a country, so the foreigners, when they describe my country, they say, well, it's one of the best places in the world. The only problem is that the people living there, they don't realize that. My point is simply that we should not be too pessimistic. We should look at the positive things. And frankly, as I said this morning, it's very impressive what has been achieved. Bravo, 25 years, excellent and very good. And it's very easy now to judge what we should have done better, etc. So I don't want to sound pessimistic and negative. Bravo, very good. Nevertheless, I have to answer the question. So what could we have done better? 3 points. One is we could have been more ambitious. Second, we could have had better coordination between the IT part and the statistical business matter experts. And third, we could have a better coordination with global statistical initiatives. So the first point is on this ambition. So it was mentioned in the panel, we started small and we should think big. Yes, it's very clear. So we focused on exchange. And in fact, the term is flagging the exchange part, and it's a little bit misleading because I really believe that SDMX can help a lot for the entire data life cycle. So this is something that perhaps we should reinforce now in the business case for SDMX. The second point is the coordination between IT and business matter experts and statisticians. I think there has been a kind of discrepancy between the work on the technical side and the statistical side with these two working groups in particular. So I'm very happy that you are now in charge of the statistical working group. I really think that this connection between, even at the BIS in statistics, we have the IT people and then we have the statistical experts, and only a few of them are making the link, and we should improve on that. And when you look at these people, they are the ones that say, well, we need interoperability because of our work. We at the BIS, we have different types of data and we need to have interoperability. So really my recommendation is to enhance this coordination, especially with the development of data structure definition and also metadata structure definition. Third point is insertion in global statistical initiatives. I think we should understand that we have the goal. Why are we doing statistics, which is the SNA, etc. Then we have the how, which is SDMX. And then we have what are we collecting, which is the actual data. Like, for example, we look at the data gaps initiative I was mentioning this morning. And it's not the same people. And we really need to make them work together. Sometimes it's the same organizations. For example, the sponsor organizations, they are involved in the data gaps initiative, but SDMX is not, when we discuss the data gaps initiative, is not at the forefront. So personally, I had to insist a lot that SDMX was a little bit mentioned in the phase 2 and then in phase 3. And I think it's very important to have this connection between the statistical norms, the tools, the data standards, and also the actual data. One example is that recently we started at the BIS a project to have comparable data across countries and across sectors on debt. And then we were horrified because yes, we had the SNA, but then when we looked exactly at what was really behind the SNA, how it was implemented, the metadata, the type of data, then we realized it was really difficult to make something that was comprehensive. So I really think that SDMX can help to foster this better data quality And this was my example for the depth data. Because that's the only way. If you don't have the data structure definition and the metadata, then you have really data that are not comparable. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. Now, well, before turning to Bert, I will announce that Prem Ramaswamy from Google will afterwards tell us about how Google can support our AI readiness plan. But now I turn to Bert with a question related to this. How do we better engage technology company, academia, and the AI community in our SDMX?
Thanks, Dominic. We make statistics because we want them to be used. And in order to be used, it's important that people find the statistics where they look for them. And there's still people who go to websites, but most people look for data on chatbots, on search machines. So it's very important to ensure our data is found there where people look for them. So if people look for data on these tools, they get the right information, the right statistical information that we produce. And these are exciting times. There are all the new techniques, the LLMs, the MCPs, etc. So now we're actually able to achieve that. I see some people from Statistics Netherlands in the room. They know we tried this 4 or 5 years ago with the semantic graphs. We were not successful, but now we can do it. And Jeff just demonstrated the approach that we at the IMF took. So official statistics is a strong brand. And what Jo Simon said in his keynote speech is that we need to build a trusted data observatory, which is basically an index, a list of statistics that are officially made, and that if someone has a question for a official statistics, that data from there is going to be presented. It's a big term, but it's basically, we call it a comprehensive trusted data commons. It's basically an LLM or a search machine asking for data goes there. So how can we realize this vision? So not only something we want, also tech companies want to give the right information. As Jeff was presenting before, they're struggling how to get access to data, present the right data. So they want to work together with us to ensure they give the right information as well. So as the SMS ecosystem, we can help realize this vision. A common standard like STMAP makes it easier for tech companies to find and interpret that data. Steve from the OECD told me that Google now built an STMX data commons converter, basically transforming the STMX standard data to the Google data metadata format. And this is exactly what needs to be done. Us having a standard helps data to being used. But another way that STMX can help is by creating tools together as a community. An example is that there has been an STMX wizard already being created. If you publish your data in an Excel file, that by means of a series of prompts, you can load that Excel spreadsheet in the tool. And then after some questions, it builds a draft DSD, code list, schemas. And obviously it has to be revised, but you can just build a modern STMX described metadata. I know that there was a question about MCP. Well, I think we as STMX community should make sure that we kind of talk to the tech companies. What kind of MCP do they want? And how can we build something that for all STMX described data sets makes it possible to connect to our agents? So it's not important that we also test it ourselves. I mean, data AI ready, obviously it needs to be open, needs to be an API, there needs to be metadata, but it should also be semantically well described, as Jo Simon says. There should be not too much other labels, so we should make it meaningful metadata. And that's why we also developed StatGPT, the tool that now makes it possible to ask questions in natural language. It gives back the answers after some questions, but it's important. It only works if the data is good. So making the data commons, onboarding data sets is not only describing it using STMX, but also making it as informative as possible. So ChatGPT is an open tool. We'll put it in GitHub. We can use it, but there are other tools as well that can be developed at least. So it's just a tool that we use ourselves to test if our data is AI ready. It may be part of the MCP solution, but it's also important to test yourself. Is the data really meaningfully described, as Jo Simon says? So as the SDMX community, we should work together. Marco said, Pellegrini, collaboration beats competition. I agree. One of the strengths of this community is that we work together. In the sponsor group this evening, we will adopt a statement, basically saying we're going to work on this together. We're going to work together to make our data AI ready, might it findable for LLMs, for search engine, etc. We'll also propose a project under SDMX.io to basically further the tool, the comprehensive set of AI readiness data, the role of MCP, because I think we have to work together on this now. We don't have too many years to realize this, and we are a very strong community to do this. Well, that's why we invited Prem from Google to speak after me. They want this too. And I guess the Google's STMX data commons converting, our StatGPT tool that we did together with tech company EPAM are great examples how the tech and statistics community can meet, and there's much more to come.
Thank you, Bert. So now, do we have Prem?
Hi, I'm here online. I hope you folks can hear me.
Yes, yes, excellent, Prem. So thank you. And the question we wanted to ask to you is on how Google or tech company can support our AI readiness plans. The floor is yours.
So let me start by thanking all of you for inviting me here today. I apologize I can't be there in person. My name is Prem Ramaswamy. I'm a product manager here at Google. I have the pleasure of working on Data Commons. Data Commons is an open source tool built by Google. You can access it at datacommons.org that builds a common knowledge graph out of all the world's public data we've gotten our hands on so far, but builds it as an interoperable federated system, allowing third parties to play with it. Before I get into Data Commons itself and its usage with UN Stats and other tools, I actually quickly wanted to start with an XKCD cartoon. For those of you who have ever seen the XKCD cartoons, there's one on standards where the first slide says situation, there are 14 competing standards. The second slide has an individual saying 14 ridiculous. We need to develop one universal standard that covers everyone's use cases. And the second person says yes. And then the third slide says situation, there are 15 competing standards. And so the question for this group is, how do we avoid this becoming the reality of the work being done by all of us to try to make data interoperable and usable across different standards? So one of the things that we've been trying to do as Data Commons is co-opt, I would argue, one of those 15 standards initially, which was schema.org, to use an existing standard to talk about data in a way that allows us to extend it, with the assumption that schema.org is also native to LLMs since they are trained on the web and naturally understand schema markup. That was our journey over the last 2 years, working with agencies like the United Nations, nonprofits like the One Campaign, academic institutes like Stanford. But what we've come to realize is we don't want to create the 15th standard. So over the last year, we've learned more about SDMX, and what we've started to do is we've started to actually integrate our Data Commons work to SDMX. We've started with an SDMX data importer. Over the next few months, we want to release an SDMX data outputter. What that means is any data set that we've brought into Data Commons, whatever format that data starts in, can now be exported in an SDMX format. And we hope Google's weight behind this helps push the SDMX format forward. But we also hope this means that any data created in SDMX can now be converted into also those other 15 standards. Because I think to get true interoperability, we should not care about which standard you use. Simply that your standard is properly published and interoperable with the existing standards out there. The final point I want to talk about is around interoperability and around federation. So the term interoperability does not mean centralization. What that means is there will not be one tool or one body that determines what tools are used around any existing standard. For a standard to be really successful, we need multiple tools. We need 1,000 flowers blooming around the usage of an open standard. We've seen this before, whether it's HTML and the web, TCP/IP, There are multiple different routers, multiple different browsers, all working with one website. That ability for us to have multiple tools out there will be key to all of this work, which is where I am excited for open protocols like the MCP protocol, which then allows us to not worry about the API I wrote, but allows us to use the intelligence of the large model to actually access all of that. And when I say the intelligence of the large model, that's how well you write a prompt, essentially. And so Google last week, working with the One campaign, has launched an early version of our MCP toolset on Data Commons, which I invite you all to play with. But what we're really excited about over the next few months is how we help this community push the SDMX standard forward and how we make the SDMX format interoperable with all the other different formats out there. A final point I'd like to add to this is, as much as the formatting of the data is important, I will stress the importance of the metadata also. Recently, we've been working closely with the World Bank to push for ML Croissant as an open standard for metadata. This was a standard created by the ML Commons Group. It's an extension to a schema.org format. We believe that national statistical offices and others adopting an ML Commons-like format on metadata ensures that your data is AI ready and actually machine readable by large language models moving forward. If I can close on one final point, it has been wonderful for me in the last 2 years to get close to this community and to work with all of you. But it has been a challenge on our end as a tech company, which is often viewed with some level of suspicion, on how we come to the table and work with all of you. I would encourage all of you to continue to engage us. You can engage us in multiple ways. Invite us to these panels. Tell us what we're doing well and shame us when we're doing it incorrectly. I enjoyed those slides earlier about moments where our products fail to tell the truth. As a company, Google's mission is to organize all the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. I like to joke we're one click away from someone using a different browser if we are not being true to that mission. And so therefore, I ask all of you to continue to engage us. We will continue to work on this problem together and hopefully be able to get better at it and ensure that the next generation of decision-making large models are trustable.
Thank you very much, Prem. It was very enlightening that you bring these external views, and the engagement to us is very also promising. So I am sure we will pursue. So now, thank you. I turn to Steve, who will give us his views about the prioritization of business case. But first, I was expecting that the result of the Slido would be put on the slide, so on the screen. So this is the feedback from your answers. Okay, so food for thought. And Steve, you react on the spot.
Okay, well, this is awkward because I'm not going to talk about AI. In fact, what I wanted to say was that everybody is talking about AI. So all I really want to say about AI is that it's actually forcing us to adhere to our standards. I think as a community, if we're honest, we've paid lip service to things like metadata for years. And now with the emergence of AI, there's really nowhere to hide. And I think this, to my mind, this is what brings SDMX into the age. Like, it's now coming of age. This has made the use case absolutely crystal clear. So I don't want to say any more about it, but I think that AI and innovation tells its own story. Ironically, I think that means we have to get back to basics. We have to start taking governance seriously in our offices. And I think that means we need to start thinking about how to institutionalize SDMX and embed SDMX into the GSPPM. In fact, I think we need to publish a GSPPM that has SDMX in it so that people can understand where it contributes, because When I joined the OECD last year, I wasn't a big user of STMX, and I think Eric was horrified when he asked me about STMX, and I said, "Oh yeah, that's that dissemination thing, right?" And he said, "No. It's..." So I think I'm common of many people. I didn't understand the full business case. So what does that mean? So looking forward, I think we need to build stronger links with academia. The reason I say that is if we can get students to use STMX, I think history has shown how effective a strategy that is for propagation. So we need to think about getting it into universities. As Prem just said, I think we need to build links with tech. I think the link or the converter between STMX and Data Commons is a good start. But I think we need to work hard in doing that to ensure that they prioritize our data in their models and that they adhere to our quality standards. And I think we have to be quite forceful about that. And I think we need to think more strategically about resources and technical assistance. How do NSOs, central banks, international organizations institutionalize STMX across the house, not just in the tech team? I think that's a big challenge. Bruno mentioned in his opening remarks the importance of better communication. I think this is critical because I think a lot of people, when I talk to them, they talk about STMX as a burden, as a cost, and we need to flip that conversation. That it's not a cost; it's a benefit. It's actually going to help you and prepare for the future years, which is back to the AI and innovation. And finally, STMX. I mean, when I look at what the community has achieved, it's been remarkable. But I do think there's a danger that we're still maybe an artisanal cottage industry. And I think we need to think more seriously about how to really industrialize STMX. The tech world, the data world is moving faster and faster. And we have to be ready to deal with this. The standards are going to change faster and faster. So I think we need to think seriously about resources and how to modernize the actual process and standards adaptation. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Steve, for giving a human light on this automated feedback. But now I think we have the time for one or two questions from the audience who has been really silent so far. So I see from you, yes.
Okay. Thank you, panelists, for your discussion. And this is a question to Prem from Google. Appreciate what you're doing for us in working with STMX and understanding the power of what it is. You mentioned, made the joke about, the 15th standard. But the question I have is, I'm thinking of the CEO of DeepMind, Demis Habbas, I believe is the name, who has agreed to come on to the Anthropic MCP kind of protocols, but yet you mentioned that Google is creating another standard, another protocol. How can you square that? What's the benefit from you creating a secondary standard that we as STMX or other groups would have to integrate as well as Anthropic and others? Is he there?
Hi, can you folks hear me?
Is Prem listening to our
Can you folks still hear me? I'm not sure.
meeting still?
Oh, well, never mind.
I'm unmuted. I don't know if you folks can hear me.
It's not important standards. Who cares, right?
The contract was different. So
Can you folks hear me or no?
is there any other question?
Well, I have one for Steve because he mentions the resources, but you heard the head of statistical office from Switzerland, and you see that currently there is not a lot of resource for official statistics. So how do you see this from the OECD perspective? How to sell it to the political?
I think George Simon made an interesting point that we need to get beyond our own community and get out and talk to the wider political network and convince them that I mean, let me put it this way. I have argued in the past that if you talk about money is now being diverted into defense spending, modern warfare, to a large extent, involves information. It's the key to modern warfare. I mean, it's always been key to warfare, but critically, information is now critical, is absolutely central to modern warfare. So if you're putting money into defense spending, why would you not put money into good informational systems? And if statistics is the bedrock of key informational systems, you can make a circular argument that we contribute to the defense of the sovereign realm, the defense of the democratic system. Ergo, it's logical to divert some of the defense spending money into the statistical system. Maybe they won't buy that, but that's the argument that I'm trying to make. And it's worth a shot, right?
Well, thank you. I think we can end on time and then do the conference in a very efficient way because everyone will be able to make presentation. Was there a question there? No? No. Okay, so thank
Can
you
you folks hear
for
me or no?
the speakers first. Thank you for the panel. And the attentive audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic.